So for GMTV, welcome to my life.
Oh, that's what you. And that's how you actually started.
No.
Welcome to my life.
No. So, hello everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to part 7, I think, of the Reset series. So we've got beautiful Liv Purvis with us today. So I've grabbed her because we're both in Italy together on a work trip. So I was like, right, pin you down, let's get this done. So Liv is like one of the most sunshiny, amazing people I've ever met in my life. Not only is she insanely talented, she's also a very honest, open person, and I thought she'd be an amazing person to get some advice and a bit of perspective on this whole anxiety and comparison thing, because you do that quite often, don't you?
I do. I'm partial to a bit
Silly
of the
dog.
older C word.
You are?
Yeah. Oh, comparison. I don't know what you were thinking. Filthy.
Oh, filthy. So I suppose, yeah, I mean, I'll say a little bit about how I've been feeling this week. Not great is the underpinning thing. I've had a funny week. I think it's due to hormones again. I mean, I think I say this every time, and I'm like, people must think I have my period every week.
Oh, do you know what? It's here again.
Oh, damn it.
Just so fertile.
So we've been on this amazing trip, and on day 1, I had the mother of all panic attacks in the middle of the night for no reason. But I was really lucky because I was with these lot. Everyone understands, everyone knew, and it wasn't like I was like, oh guys, it's so dramatic, I can't possibly do anything today. I was very just like, I am knackered because of this, and everyone was just so kind, empathetic and lovely, and really pulled me out of it. Took me a couple of days, but I'm feeling so much better now. So largely due to Liv as well. So yeah, I just wanted to get Liv on so we could have a bit of a chat about how Liv deals with stuff, and like how you find it all, and especially, in your normal life and your working life and just across all boards.
Yeah.
How do you manage it, and what kind of feelings come up for you? Because it's very different for everybody, as we know.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, I feel like I've always been quite an anxious person.
Yeah.
My nickname, as you know, is Nervous Purvis. So I'm pretty like nervous about most things going into everything. Scared of the unknown, scared of the dark, scared of ghosts.
Yeah.
But I feel like anxiety is definitely something that's creeped in more and more as I've got older. I mean, there's a few moments that do stand out, specifically from when I was at school. So like, if I was ever picked on to read or stand up in front of people, it'd be like, I remember my history teacher always made me do it, and it would just make me feel horrendous. I dreaded going into history, and I loved like the subject, but I'd go in and I knew I'd be picked on because I was so quiet. I mean, 3 words you never thought you'd say.
I know. I'm so quiet.
Or 4 words. But yeah, no, I just hated it. And I think that's kind of followed me now, that feeling. And I remember when I first started blogging, there were a few moments where I had a meeting, like, there's one moment I always remember, I was in like La Pan for a meeting. There was like 2 PRs, and I just had panic attack when I was with them, and I remember like, I didn't know what to order, and I ordered a huge lunch, and I thought I've got to eat that in front of them, and I was just remember feeling so sick, and I just didn't know what to do, and it's just those feelings. That's the first, like, you can always pinpoint a few moments where you're like, I remember that. And now I feel like anxiety, I'm a lot better at kind of nipping it in the bud. Like, I know when it's coming on, but I'm a lot better at being like rationalising it from the word go. Obviously with panic attacks you can't prevent them. Like, they just kind of
ride it out.
They spring on you, and you're like, oh, thanks.
Here we are.
Shouldn't see you coming.
Yeah.
But I'm getting better. I mean, comparison again is something that, as you know, I feel like that's something that I'm really kind of flanked with sometimes. And I really struggle with it. And I've spoken to a few people about it. But again, it is something like, I know it happens when I'm hormonal. Like
that's always worse. Everything's magnified so
really
much.
Is. Like, that's the thing. Like, a couple of days ago when I was feeling really down, like, I felt really like, I just remember sitting down and thinking, oh my god, like, I'm not good at what I'm doing. Like, I feel like I don't know where I sit, and you start questioning everything. And I felt really good, like, for most of the month. And then I was like, oh,
there we go.
And then, go to the loo, and you're like, there she is, comparison in my pants. But sorry, I'm really like lowering the tone.
I know.
But I feel like I'm getting better at remedying it, and I feel like a couple of weeks ago was a really good example, because I had the busiest week ever, and I got to the end of it, and I had a really good week, and then I thought, I've not really been on my phone for much of it because I've been so rushed off my feet. And then I was like, oh, that's because I haven't had time to look at what everyone else has been doing with their week, making me feel like I hadn't done enough with mine.
Okay.
And then looking back at that week, it wasn't the most productive, it wasn't the most like standout, highlight, exciting meetings. It was just a very normal, productive week. But the fact that I hadn't had time to just scroll and sit on my phone and and I think like Carrie had stayed over my house a couple of nights, so I'd been really occupied the whole time, and I was like, it's amazing how much.
I can definitely get on board with that and see that as well in myself.
Yeah,
it's so important that you take some time away from your phone, regardless of what your job is. If you find yourself comparing yourself to others, whether that be somebody in your peer group or somebody online who you think lives this amazing life, it ain't true.
Yeah, and I feel like you're damned if you're doing a damned thing. I spoke to someone about this around the bank holiday actually, and there's this thing, especially around like, you know, bank holidays, weekends, where you'll look at someone, they might be going out and having the most amazing evening out in town, and then you're sitting at home in your pajamas thinking, oh, I should be doing that, I should be out. And then if you were out, you'd be looking at someone at home in their pajamas thinking, like, I should be indoors. And you're never ever going to be happy with what you're doing when you're looking at other people. Like, there's never a moment where you're like, yeah, I've made the wrong decision. It's just constantly like you're chasing your tail the whole time. And I think once you accept that, you're like, oh, like I'm never, like if I'm comparing myself, I'll never be pleased with what I've got ever.
Yeah, that's it. It's so difficult. And how do you have you found a few things that you do now to help stop those thoughts when they come? Because it is part of you, just like a panic attack, anxiety is part of me. It's not something I can switch off, like this is not something you can switch off. But what kind of things do you find help when you're feeling in that headspace?
I do feel like, I know it's so basic, but like switching off my phone or like separating myself out. I feel like music really helps as well.
Yes.
Without sounding really like ridiculous.
No, it's not.
I feel like it sounds really
pretentious.
like music really helps me.
No.
But I went to a gig last week, Florence. And
Florence.
I remember just seeing her and thinking, God, she's so cool and so different and unique. And I just thought, oh, like she's like, from what she does in her industry, she's so different to anyone else, but she's still successful. And I was like, oh,
maybe I'm the Florence.
Yeah, but you kind of feel like you look at it from that perspective and you're like, oh, she's doing something that's really successful, but she's not following a similar recipe to me. I'm like, oh, we're all like that. And it's kind of like you cross-compare it to the industry you're in.
Yeah.
And I just think sometimes just listening to music, enjoying, like, appreciating what you've got.
Yeah. And
actually, I was in a meeting recently, we were talking about Instagram, and we were talking about, oh, you know, how everyone goes through other people's feeds and looks at their highlights reel.
Yeah.
And I thought sometimes actually looking at your own feed and your own highlights reel, putting that on its head and being like, oh, actually, look at all the good things I've done.
Yeah, this is cool.
Yeah, like look at all my highlights. Like, yeah, that's the thing. Like, oh my God, she's been to Italy. She's like got these great outfits on. She's got a great boyfriend. And actually looking at all the good things you've got going on, because chances are there's people looking at you
thinking the same
thing.
Yeah.
And it's always the case. There's always going to be someone looking at you thinking, oh, she's got it all, and no one has it all. No one. There's no such thing. There really is no such thing as having it all. And I think when you can accept, like, be happy with what you've got, and I feel like the older I get, the more I'm appreciative of those things.
God, yeah.
Like the smaller things, like, oh my God, I've got my health, like touch wood.
Yeah. There's loads of it. There's loads of wood here.
But like you start appreciating those things and looking at the bigger scale and being like, well, why would I waste my precious time like looking at what someone else has
and worrying
when I've got all I could ever want? Like, so there's a saying actually, and it's like, what would you of 5 years ago say to you today, or something like along those lines?
Yeah.
And when I look at me from like, say 10 years ago, and look at what I was doing now, she would be like, girl,
you go.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, you look at it and you think, in that time, you're like, I mean, 10 years ago, what was I?
Yeah, what were you doing 10 years ago?
I was 14, and I was in a very different place. I was at school.
I was yeah. Older than that.
What was I doing? I was studying, and I was just a loser. My hair looked the same, so not much change in that department. But I feel like if I'd have said, oh, you're going to be doing this, you'd be like, wow.
Get lost.
Yeah, that's the thing. And even if it's like, I don't think it has to be enormous either, because I think we do put these pressures on ourselves to have been like, I think social media does, to have been like, right, by this age you need this, you need to have done, you know, a TV series, a film, and there is that enormous pressure. Whereas actually just maintaining like your livelihood, like being able to get up every day and go to it, sustain yourself, like support yourself independently, even if you can't do that, like just get up every day, like being able to be like, I've survived for 10 years on the planet,
and it's all down to me. This is it. And this is what I always say, it's like the simple little things that you can change or like be really aware of in your life that help with those things that like anxiety, feeling low, having that comparison thing in your head. And it's so important, and it's just so simple.
I know.
But when you're in that thought process and when you're in that headspace, those things seem like a mountain, just like the mountains out there.
I know, but then it's also appreciated. I'll be illustrated there. But I think those things and that peak as well, it's appreciating that ride as well, because I feel like I read this thing in this book and it was about creativity as a career, and it's like there's no peak, there's never a peak.
No.
Like if I said to you what would be your peak moment in your career, you'd be like, I don't know, because there isn't going to necessarily be one.
It just rolls on and you just
because there's
carry on
loads
creating,
of great
there's
things,
just so many,
and it's an evolution, and I think it's learning to appreciate that whole ride, like those peaks. And it's all on the way up, but just appreciate the whole journey opposed to that one moment you're striving for, which might never happen, because it's all good.
Yeah.
And I think when you start thinking of it like that, you're like, oh, and then just talking to people as well, like you, like other people I find hugely successful and inspiring, like Lindsay. I'm like, oh, we all have those things. Like I remember I had a meeting with someone who I hugely admire, and I think she's so switched on and like shit hot and like must like amazing at her career. And she was like, oh no, I feel really like insecure and I'm not qualified enough. And I'm like,
you feel like that, then
and I just couldn't believe it, because it never crossed my mind. It's so stupid, because obviously we all feel like it. And I was like, you feel like it?
How? You're my number one.
Yeah, and it's so weird. And I feel like once you accept that, it's quite freeing, because you're like, oh my god. And even in the same meeting, I went in and I was very open about the fact I was really nervous. And then like this lady said that she was like, oh, I felt quite nervous. And I'm like, when you all open up that table and you're like, oh, we can all just sit and relax then, can't we? Because we're all feeling exactly the same. And that's so nice. And I think when you realise everyone's probably in those positions, like with sweaty feet or sweaty palms, you're like, you're all just like, we're all like it.
Yeah, of course.
We're all sitting on the airplane thinking, oh, sorry, spat there. We're all sitting there feeling a bit jittery. Then it's like, oh, that's fine.
Everyone's in the
as long as the pilot's not like that.
Yeah, exactly. Then we're all safe. We're all
not for you. But sorry, really waffled then.
No, that's amazing. This is exactly what people want to hear. And when, like it's normally just me sat here waffling at you, isn't it? And then when I get guests, it's so good to get other people's perspective, other people's kind of thoughts and feelings about how they manage it. So this is amazing, and you've come at a slightly different angle of the comparison thing. That is, I don't know anybody that doesn't do it, no matter what walk of life.
How do you deal with it, with comparison? How do you tackle it?
I get really in my head about it sometimes, and I used to pride myself on thinking that I never did. And then more recently it's come to light, and I don't know whether it's because of maybe like growth and some success, and now I'm at a level where I'm like, okay, this, and I feel like I've got my head screwed on about my business and my development and where I want to take things, and we're consuming what other people are doing all the time, and I'm a bit like, right, okay, so I didn't get that job but they did, shit, what have I done wrong? Right, well that's it, tits up then, isn't it? And it's never a case of that. We're all different, and people work with us because we're different, not because we're similar.
Yeah, so that's the thing, and your USP is you.
Yeah, that's it. It's always that. No, and that's in any job. Like, you're you. That's it. That's you. Your speciality is you.
You are you.
Yes.
And I feel like the more successful you get, the more it's going to rear its head. Because the more people are likely to criticise, or the more things are going to, there's going to be more spanners in the works, because things are going at a faster pace.
And the higher you get, the more kind of, the more kind of congested the industry is, in the industry that we work in, because everybody's moving together, growing together, and we're all getting to this level where it's like, okay, yes, there's enough work to go around, yes, there's enough jobs to go around, and we all do amazing things, but then there are people who want to work with the same brands, and you're a bit like, oh, okay, right, so it really is me or her then.
And because we're all freelance as well, it's like that freelance battle where you're like, it could all drop at any minute, it could all drop at any minute. But when there's hundreds of people all feeling the same thing in the same industry with the same brands, you're kind of thinking, and it's never like that. No. It's really not. No. But you do worry, and in a way that's good, because it shows you care.
Of course, but it's like your baby business, and you're like, this is me. It's like my one-man band, your one-man band, and everybody's trying their best to just stay ahead of things and do something innovative, and it's hard, but that's what challenges us, and that's why we do it, because we love it.
And I think talking about it as well, like, you're opening it up, it makes it so much more normal, and takes away the stigma from it. It makes you feel there shouldn't be any guilt in feeling like you're comparing yourself. And I think for a long time, like you said, I felt guilty or a bit embarrassed that I was sitting there, like, I felt a bit defeated, because I was like, I shouldn't feel like it.
And you feel like I kind of take feeling of being like, oh God, what a bitch.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sat here going, oh God, she got that and I didn't.
Yeah.
I feel like a brat, but I get plenty of opportunities that maybe that person or those people don't get, and you forget to see that because you're just so like, God, but I wanted that.
Yeah, or like even at dinner the other night when I felt a bit down, I was like, oh God, what a moaner. They're all going to leave and be like, what a moaner.
No, Purvis was literally like, I could see it all over her face. I was like, you're me when I feel low. And I was like, are you alright? I was like, no. She was like, yeah, fine. I was like, no, you're not. I was like, oh, come on. So we just dragged it out of her over the course of an hour.
And then I felt like, that's the thing, then you're doing it, it feels really cathartic, but then you're like, oh my God, I'm such a moaner.
Not at all.
And you feel so guilty.
But we were all the same people. We're all very similar. On this trip, we're all very similar, and everybody's very kind and empathetic and want to help. Nobody has like a nasty competitive streak that would be,
or like an ulterior
malicious
motive.
No,
or like,
no.
Oh, she could dread to find that. Also, who's been bothering you?
Yeah,
like,
us. Let me just record this.
Yeah, it's so true, but it does make you feel better.
Of course
amazing.
it does.
And I feel like by the end of that meal, I was like,
you did.
God.
You looked lighter.
Yeah.
Well, you were kind of like, oh.
my posturing improved.
Yeah, you were literally like,
oh. I know.
But yeah, no, it's hard
posture.
and it happens to everybody, so it's not just you. And that's why that's the reason we could identify it, is because it happens to us as well. And we were like, nah, she's feeling something funny here.
No.
No.
So good though.
Yeah.
So useful.
So good.
Talk it out.
Yeah, always talk it out.
Switch off your phone and talk it out.
Yeah. Oh, Liv Purvis, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks so much.
I could literally natter all day.
I know, but it's so important to do it, and it's helpful for everybody. So
I feel like these are good chunks as well. Sometimes I feel like I can get carried away and I'm like, oh no, I'm
losing you.
I'm losing you.
Come back.
It's a good little like burst. It's like little shot. Little, like energy shot.
It is, yeah. An energy shot of Purvis. Well, we'll say thank you and bye. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon. You're welcome. Bye.